just had a thought and just wanted to simply say anything that is true, is simple. It ends up being simple. So then the astonishing thing is man, man is mankind blind. Carnal man's blind. And even for individually, uh, first the natural for each individual, first Adam, carnal, natural, then the spiritual. And then for Israel as a whole, first the natural kingdom, then the spiritual kingdom in Messiah instead of Moses. But individually also, first the natural, then the spiritual. It's not one or the other understanding here. And so many other teachings and truths are just like that, where it's the individual understanding for self, and then as a whole, even for the world. There's too many ways with their doctrines to prove and test this thing to be true. That with words, they'll be careful not to say that, but their doctrines, spiritual teaching, the thing in the heart that's believed, is how you say the words. They teach that. In reality, that's their actual belief and teaching, but it's covering that, it's hiding that. It pumps the leaven. False doctrine is the leaven, and evil inside people like this in the dark. They don't know what's going on, what they're being taught. This secret pumping the doctrine in the night, not seeing. The harlot hit a little bit of yeast leaven and it leavens the whole lump. And that is what a false prophet and a snake will do. It gets inside people, the heart meaning. But the words they say is a whole different thing. It doesn't have anything to do with what someone really believes by just saying words. So the church world, the churches, as we know the word, they teach a great blasphemy that the Creator's a hypocrite, that he's not already first and continually what he commands his people to do and shows them and teaches them how to do it. That he's already, the truth is he's already that first and continually, and was that first already. And the Creator doesn't sin. And he, like we can read, he's not tempted by evil. That's for weak man and flesh. The Creator cannot be tempted by evil. Messiah was tempted in every way, like we read, in every way that a man can be tempted, mankind, man or woman, he was tempted in every way. Those words are not vanity. It means every way. He would have been tempted. It doesn't matter what example he would be tempted by such and such or this or that. And the Creator is not tempted like that, or not tempted by evil. And yet this Trinity God is one. It's the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. And they're all connected and co-eternal and coexisting. And they're three, but they're like three heads on one body. So how is it one individual of the one thing, because they say he's one, can die and be tempted by sin, by evil, but the other, the Creator, the Father, Trinity, is not tempted by evil and cannot die. He alone hath immortality and dwells in light. No man can dwell in it. He alone, the Creator, possesses immortality. He has it. So then how is it that the third or second head on the exact same body can die, but the other doesn't? It's nonsense. And it's not even about talking about a literal monster like that. It's just the pagan trinity. This is confusion and delusion and deception and blasphemy and false gods in people's heart. So when the Creator teaches us, love your enemies through Messiah, giving him truth, it all comes from the Father. That's who he is. And the fruits of the Spirit, all the things we can read, That's the fruits of the Spirit of the Father. And one of them, I think I mentioned it in the last video, the works of the flesh is malice, wickedness, hatred. And the Father is not flesh. He's not carnal works of man, evil works and flesh. So the Creator is not a hypocrite. He doesn't have a carnal hatred. He doesn't have hatred. And hatred is understood carnally by man. That's all a natural man can understand is the evil hatred, carnal hatred. The Creator is not that. And yet he hates all who work iniquity. They can't see and rightly divide. It's only seeing darkness in the evil and not seeing good in everything. And the more someone walks with him, the more they just see the good. Not that the world's good, but it's just starting to dwell on and see good and pull out and extract the good only and leave the evil behind. Which is nothing to do with like the world teaching truth or good or anything. It's just that you see through whatever it is, and you could see like something spiritual good that he's taught you through that. And that's how you see that thing. But everyone else in this world just sees whatever they normally see, perversion or some literal thing. And that's it. And we could use anything. Is the Creator jealous? Well, we read about it. But isn't jealousy a sin? So yes, they call him a hypocrite. Loving enemies? Well, I guess the Creator does it, but he commands us to. He does not love his enemies. He's a hypocrite. Yes, they teach that. 2,000 years roughly, 1900 something, and the church world is confounded in a few seconds because it has zero spiritual understanding, zero understanding of who the Father is and what sin is, not learning and growing. Does the Father steal? But he tells us not to steal, but he could steal with that intention, the evil stealing only. These are the evil things. He has evil intentions for all humanity to torture them with no end. This is evil and a great blasphemy. And for mankind, one of the greatest blasphemies is being a God in our own mind and believing a God, believing man is God in any way, shape, or form is like one of the greatest blasphemies there is. Like love, going back to the Creator's love, all things going back to that. All the evil goes back to, not just one word, but connected in the same kind of way, lust. What's the other word? Well, it doesn't matter. Going back to one thing, and then it branches out from there. So that's with evil, and that's with good. A good tree and a bad tree. A bad tree cannot produce good fruit. And the fruit represent the works. So a bad tree, a person, as we can find the simple scriptures that are showing us that people are likened to trees. That's one of the things. Not the only thing, but the trees clap their hands. The trees in the kingdom of heaven is like a seed that grows into a giant tree. So the person being a tree, doing evil works because it's a bad tree, and it cannot produce good fruit if it's an actual bad tree. But the good tree cannot produce evil fruits and works because the Father doesn't do evil, carnal evil. His Spirit in his people do good, his good works. And the severe lack of any understanding to understand and see and then rightly divide his favor and his covering and forgiveness and then sacrifice, and that the old man is reckoned as dead. It's not being looked at. And so it's with all those understandings that a good tree cannot produce bad fruit. It's like saying the Creator's works are evil works and he produces evil works. Not has nothing to do with the Creator doing it. He doesn't produce any evil works. He doesn't have a wickedness. And which is once again rightly divided from judging. Dishing out righteous judgments have nothing to do with who the Creator is in this way, in that the judgments come back eye for eye, tooth for tooth. Has nothing to do with him being evil. But yeah, he puts for a judgment, sends evil towards people's ways, sends evil towards the city, like we read this so many times. To those that rob, they get robbed, but the Creator is not a robber. He doesn't do robbery like a carnal man out of evil, out of some kind of sin and hatred, but only as a righteous judgment. That's not who he is. He doesn't rob himself. He doesn't lie. He does not lie. But man lies all the time. And that's why we read, let Elohim be true, but every man a liar. He's not a liar, but he will deceive the false prophet and choose his delusions like we read, but he's not a deceiver. He doesn't do evil deceiving with intentions to deceive for the purpose of doing evil, but as a righteous judgment. Those that deceive themselves as a righteous judgment. And the world doesn't accept this. The religions and Christianity don't accept this. They don't believe in his judgments. His judgments are evil to them. How dare God do like that? But Satan doesn't do this. The enemy doesn't punish evil works. It blesses evil works, supports evil works. This God is the good God they speak of, that doesn't judge like this. That's an evil God. They're talking about their father God, the devil. When they say things like this, it's manifested and quickly discerned by those who can see, and they make it obvious who they are, that they don't believe in the Creator, don't know him. Because the reaction instantly about any judgments, anything that's especially, more, they picture like judgment and they see like evil coming someone's ways. That specific thing is evil to them. God doesn't do that. It's all about this free will. This is the devil as their God. The 180, inverting everything, is what the enemy does. Perfectly backwards from the Creator and who he is. So the devil doesn't do that. He doesn't judge evil works, punish with righteous judgment evil works. But 180, rewards evil works with carnal blessings and fame and riches and things like this. The more you deceive, the more carnally blessed you are. And then when someone uses how much money they have and possessions and status and mansions, when they use that to show that they're blessed by God, it's the exact opposite. It's never been about those things, and we're not supposed to seek them with the heart. Seek the kingdom and we'll have what we need. And he determines what's too much or too little, not man's definition of too much or too little. He'll determine it for the believer themselves, to not have too much or too little. Right down the middle on the narrow path, and not going to the left or right, but a perfect middle between the two things that there always is. He doesn't have a carnal jealousy out of evil. He has a perfect jealousy, a good kind of jealousy that the world doesn't comprehend, the church world doesn't comprehend. It doesn't even cross his mind to sacrifice and burn, Israel's kids to the pagan Molech or whatever god, burning them in the fire like that. But the spiritual meaning, he doesn't do that. It doesn't cross his heart to destroy someone for the sake of evil, to attack with vengeance, to take their life, to seek them out and destroy them, burn them in the fire. That's not who he is. That's the god of this world, the devil, the enemy. That's who he is. And so then spiritually, people are putting their kids in the fire, the pagan gods in the heart. Religion's doing this. And that never even crossed the Father's heart, like we read. And yet, judgments are sent and people are in destruction. And yet, he doesn't do destruction. Sounds contradicting. Almost everything all over his word is like this, where there's the two things and they sound contradicting. To the carnal man, it isn't. It's not important. It doesn't matter. So they'll do the contradicting evil works continually, unable to discern between good and evil, like Adam and Eve, as everyone was first. Still is most of the world. Never crossed his mind to be like a serpent, a devil, to go out and seek, kill, and destroy someone because they don't like them or because they don't like truth and hate it. So then they go out to murder and destroy. He doesn't do that. He only dishes out perfect, righteous judgment. Those that destroy are destroyed themselves. Those that believe he's a hard creator, doesn't reap where he sows where he reaps, their reality is that. It's bondage in Egypt, doesn't reap any spiritual blessings on all the things it sows. It doesn't reap the same back. Those that reap corruption receive corruption back. That's why we read that. For those that sow corruption receive the same back, corruption. And yet the Father is not tempted by evil and doesn't do actual carnal evil. But he sends it as a righteous judgment, but it's not who he is. And that's why we read he takes no pleasure in the death of the wicked. Zero pleasure. It's a strange work he does. We also read because of who he is. It's strange that all of this exists, darkness and evil. And the Father's teaching that it's a strange thing even to him because of who he is. And this world's in darkness and destruction. It's a strange work he works. And yet he's not doing unrighteousness. And yet it's all for good intentions with a plan and a purpose for evil and darkness and destruction. It's actually to show who he is through it so that he can show his mercy and who he is good, using darkness to fulfill this and actually have the perfect opposite intentions of evil, of the enemy, so that all this so he can actually have mercy on someone and show this mercy and his goodness to all in due time. This is why, part of why evil exists. He determined it to be necessary. But the enemy's intention from the heart, which is the works always of the heart, is what we speak of. The enemy's intention is to destroy from the heart people. That is not our Creator. That is not the Father of lights. No intention to go and do evil and destroy people, and especially without a cause, which is what the enemy does to his people all day long. Attack and destroy without a cause. Because darkness hates the light, and so it doesn't need a cause. It does it because it hates truth and light and good, and hates the Creator. But there's no actual real cause justifiable. Not that any of that's justifiable for us to do seek vengeance, but there is no actual cause. Hating truth and evil is no cause. There's no reality to that. Seemingly for no reason is what the experience is, what his people will have to experience. But we'll know why it's happening because of the hatred and enemy. But there was no, when it happens and someone just does good works, no evil works done, no false intention, no trying to destroy, and yet it receives, it's trying to be sought out to be killed anyways. So there's no actual cause. But for his people, if you will, the cause is because of hating the Creator and truth and light. If I would have to say there's a cause in that way, but there is no cause. hated him without a cause. That's why we read that. And any law or commandment that we're learning in the heart, the Father already is that perfectly. It's already the good thing, the righteous law. Righteousness comes from himself. And the Father is righteous and the enemy is unrighteous. Light and dark. No unrighteousness in the Creator and no righteousness in the enemy. Zero. And those that don't have the Creator are unrighteous continually with zero righteousness because it comes only from the Father. And the good works come only from the Father. That's it. Through Messiah and not from the flesh, because the works of the flesh is all sin. And we read a couple times where the apostle gives a list of some, naming a bunch of different things. The works of the flesh are always sin and evil. It's always out of lust, which is sin. And the Creator does not lust like that or have that lust. But there is a good kind of lust, if you must use the word like that. But he's not any kind of actual lust as mankind would be and do. Evil lust, carnal darkness. The Father sees right through the night as if it's day, meaning no one can hide from him their works of the heart. And they're alike in that way, in that he can see right through it, just as daylight. They can't actually hide in the dark, but a beast runs into the night, into the trees like Adam and Eve, and tries to hide, and uses religion as fig leaf covering and self-righteousness to cover self, cover thyself, and say, I'm covered. And this is the enemy doing all this selfishness and building its own gods, and then the worship goes back to self. It's all who the enemy is, the devil. And only confusion is sent towards sin's way. In constant sin, it's going to be confusion within the person, contradictions everywhere, evil works, no truth in them, because the enemy has no truth. So it's a monstrous thing once we start seeing this, what this world has done. But it's out of just literally being, like, wow, just out of truth, wow, not as out of no understanding and believing we're better or something. It's just still amazing anyways, out of truth. The only reason. And that needs to be the only reason or intention in the heart that Messiah's people have, that it's amazing out of the sheer deception, and compared to the simplicity of the Creator's truth. He gives us any understanding of something. It's still like marveling and wondering after, marveling and wondering on how blind this world is. John in Revelation wonders, but the Creator says, don't worry. And through Messiah, we might read, don't worry, John, but let me come show you the judgment on this harlot. In spirit, John went, and we have a picture in spirit. And there's flesh and just standing there and seeing a literal city. All right, now let's go, John. And you carry it away and lift it up into the air and in the spirit. Okay, now we're here. What do you see? And John is marveling and wondering after the fact that the world is marveling and wondering after the beast, the enemy, the devil, the god of this world, the serpent beast. So only in spirit can we see his judgments. A little bit hidden there in Revelation. Everything is hidden. For those not seeking him, the truth is hidden. We have to search it out, asking him. He hides it from the world and has made the wisdom of this world foolishness. So the Father is in the secret place, like Messiah said. And you do your works like he does in secret in this way, and he'll reward you openly. But what is the opposite? The enemy's way. Doing things out in the open so people can see how good someone is, and their carnal things, let alone that too. Where Messiah's people, it's spiritual works of the heart first and foremost, works of love. And so the opposite is to go out in the open to be seen by everyone and then not rewarded at all inwardly. Those that do their works with that understanding, not wanting to do anything with corrupt intention, doing it hidden in this kind of way, not to be seen by men. No intention, just to do something to be seen and then rewarded openly. But openly, the fool is made a fool openly. The abundance of the fool's words, it speaks out its wrath. It doesn't hold its wisdom because there's none yet. But wisdom is who the Father is slow to anger, slow to, wrath and anger, righteous anger. And so then that's what we need to be becoming, because the Creator is light and perfect, to be in His image and not the devil's image of the beast. Protecting self's image, doing things for false intentions, for the image and for self-gain, is how this world runs. It's running off of this spiritual wickedness. It's running off of greed, and it's a madhouse in this world. The way everything is run and things, it's all so corrupt, taking advantage and making a lot of money on sick people too, like literally sick people. And then there's so many confusing laws and things and this and that. And then each one doing their jobs in this world is protecting themselves. It's not because they care about anything at all, but they don't want to lose their life and their job and whatever. And so then they point to the guy above them on the ladder, on the pyramid scheme, Egypt, Trinity. As so often you can see, they explain the Creator in Christianity as like a triangle Trinity, right? The pyramids of Egypt, pyramid on the dollar bill. I lost my thought now. Lost my thought. Went off on a little branch really quick and already lost it. Not knowing who He is eternal life. Eternal life is to know Him and the one He sent, Messiah, to know the Father and to know Messiah. It's just a few words. It's just know Him, but it means so much, connected to everything. It's huge. And you just say a few simple words. That's the carnal man, though. Just says a few simple words. The golden rule: love your neighbor, love God, and no understanding, no depth. It's just words on the surface to look good and protect the image, the intention of carnal. So that's the enemy then they speak about, but they won't say it. That's what delusion and deception is being just as blind as the picture of building your own God and saying it's God, and then worshiping the golden calf. It's that blind spiritually. It's as spiritually blind in the picture natural we see with Israel. It's a severe blinding naturally. Who can deny it? To build your own God and actually believe it's God. But it's all going back to self and self-worship, seeking its own glory. But spiritually, it's that blind. One is blind, so is the other. The teaching is blind. And when we read that about Israel creating this, the teaching is it's doing it because it's severely blind. So then spiritually also, what people are doing in the heart, in the religion, it's that blind. And the Pharisees ask Messiah, are we blind also? And he said, if you said you would see, you would be healed. But since you say you see, if you said you didn't see, you would be healed. But since you say you see, your sin remains. That was his answer on are we blind? Asking him, are we blind? Telling the truth but so often not looking like directly answering. And yet it is direct. It's actually the most direct way there is, with truth and being direct and clear and answering honestly and truthfully. But to the carnal man, that's not. It's nothing. That's evil. To the carnal man, Messiah is not answering directly so many times what they have in their heart. He's talking about spiritual things. His word is spirit, about the heart and what their heart is doing, not about some game, fake things, no reality to it, masquerading, sheepskin on the wall, no reality to who and what they are. It's creating a false image. And a masquerade is a lie and a trick and it's deception. So it's creating this false image. There's zero love or care for any of his word. If they had a love or care and understanding of don't take away and don't add to his word, they do that. Not the meaning of that is not with letters, taking away a literal word, putting in a word whatever you want, although that would still be, obviously, but that's not the meaning. Taking, adding, and taking away is exactly how they do their work, teaching in the religion and Christianity, specifically because they're the many called. I lost my thought again. I guess I need to get some sleep. So all over and everywhere they teach the Creator. They put blasphemy on him, like we read. Because of you, the apostles saying the nations, the Gentiles, anybody unbeliever, because of you blaspheming, the apostles saying blaspheming who he is, his name. Yes, all the nations, all the carnal blaspheme him constantly. That's their actual heart and works are blaspheming him, not just speaking of what someone says, but the heart is actually mocking and blaspheming, in its own mind and heart, the Creator. They don't realize what they're doing. They don't know what blasphemy is. They don't know what they do. They don't know that it's blasphemy for man to be God and God in its own mind. That's why their Messiah is God. It's about as backwards and evil as it can be. To be man being a God is the blasphemy. Which God gave everyone free will, only through the Creator's judgment, through the enemy sent in a delusion to believe that he gave man the greatest gift ever, free will. And then since, what do they teach? Going along with what they say and going along with it and continuing with it. They'll say, someday, never not sin anymore. Say, not sin anymore. Therefore, their reward based on what they say and teach. Their reward of what to come, what they say, with doctrine, with words, is that free will is the greatest gift ever. But then in the future, you can't sin, right? They won't die, no sin. Their reward for Christianity's reward is the thing that they hate most right now. That's their reward. Oh man, this is so incredibly blind. Who can see it? They hate because it's rebellion with the heart. That's why it teaches this free will. It's in rebellion, and free will is utter rebellion. And there is no such thing, but only in a delusion sent by the Creator. So then in the future, they, what do they say? Like I said, they no more sin, right? Be made like the angels, incorruptible, immortal, not sin anymore. So that's what will happen. So they say. So then the reward for them is the thing that they hate perfectly, is the rebellion, hating the Creator, and that's their reward at the end. It's pretty scary. They'll never say these words. They'll never say that that's actually what they teach and believe in the heart. That's the reality of what's in their heart. And it does all its works like this, just like that, in the dark. And the poor people getting deceived in the church world can't see what's really going on because it's working in the dark to hide, so you can't see. So the Creator needs to give us light, His Spirit, to start seeing darkness within ourselves, and evil within ourselves, to start seeing and learning it and exposing it, His light in us, exposing that darkness, and then we could see others, start to discern others, more clearly and for the first time, and testing the spirits and discerning from good and evil between the two. So like a light exposing darkness, so then His light exposes these dark evil works and teachings and how they work in the dark. Without His light, we can't see either how they work, and we didn't. And so they suck people in so easily because the heart is deceitful above all things. And without any light, we won't know where we're going and won't see what's really happening with teachings, with works, with both. And so it seems good to man. There's a way that seems good in his eyes, but the end of it leads to death. That's an utter delusion because it seems good to them, to the religious leaders and those they trap and deceive. They fall also in the ditch. It seems good to them, and its end is death. It's already death, but it's going into death. Death and darkness is one, and light and life is one. It's amazing. A different meaning, carnal, and definition for everything compared to whatever is true that comes from above. A different carnal lie for a definition for every single word than whatever is actually true and what it really means. It comes from the Father to see. And so what do they say? That even though someone dies, they can live? What do they just casually do with that? Oh, that's just dying and going to heaven. Immortal souls. That's their understanding. For dying and yet still living. It has nothing to do with what they say at all. Zero. It's spiritually dying to the old man. Destruction of the old man. While we die like this, we can live. And it's very painful. So yes, we need His life and we need His everything. Be dying, but don't worry, though someone believes in Messiah, though they die, they can live. Just like the judgments, and just like when they read like a fire, hell, Gehenna fire, it's just some literal torture in the future, has nothing, no reality, nothing to do with now at all, zero. Because people aren't being tortured all around the world with fire and burned up with fire, literally. So then when is that judgment going to be true? Well, that means it's not true. That means it hasn't been true until some very last day, the end. But all this time, it's never true. There's no judgments. There is no fire. There is no correcting and refining. It doesn't exist in their heart. That's what their teaching really means. That's what they really believe when they say all things happen at the end, some carnal thing at the end. What they say and mean by that is that it's not true right now. There's no spiritual reality or understanding that's true right now. That's what they also must say and say with their understanding of hell to come someday. Same with the 144,000. It means there hasn't been any believers all this time from Messiah to the end except the very end. That's what they really believe in me, that there is no believers right now. It's just something in the future, 144,000 way in the distant future. And that's who they believe and say, and that's how they teach that the Creator is talking about a small, tiny percentage of his people at the very end, showing partiality. And not just that, when that's said, that the real understanding is not understood, that it's always true, spiritual. His people need to overcome sin and death, which is a spiritual war. The 144,000 are all the believers in Messiah that ever lived. It's for all of them equally. Same teachings coming into them equally. Same works they need to start learning to do, Father's work equally. The same evil world to overcome, like Messiah overcame the world equally. The same mark of the beast to overcome for all his people in Messiah equally. And whatever is true, there's no partiality in the teaching. And so then once we have this understanding, start seeing these things, that it's for all his people. Where's the partiality? There is none, because he doesn't teach partial anything. He's not partial, nor is the teachings in the heart partial, or prideful, or hypocritical, or hateful, or lewd, or blind, or deception, all this evil. The Creator is not any of it. It's just a stumbling stone when they read, he hates all who work iniquity. It's a stumbling stone when they read the improper word even, hell. Stumbling stone. I think that's it. So on and on the blasphemy continues. Severe blasphemy. Got to come out of her, my people, the calling that he has. Come out of her, lest you partake her plagues in her plagues. And yes, the plagues are just some future thing that happened in the long distance future, meaning there's no plagues actually these last 2,000 years, meaning those words are a lie and not true all this time, but will be true for a very few people in the distant future. That means these plagues in the church world to come out of, lest you partake them, has no meaning or value and is not true, hasn't been true this whole time, and it's a lie. Anything that's not true is a lie. So when they read that, is it true? Does it mean anything? Well, no, it doesn't. It's their understanding. So what are they saying? Partial, and that the Creator's a liar, and that his word is not for us, and it hasn't been true all along. The opposite is true. It's always been true. All his word has always been true. The mark of the beast has always been true and existed. Cain received the mark and he's driven out from the present, sold under sin. We got the example right in Genesis in the beginning. The mark of the beast, spiritual. And anything spiritual is always true and always one and always prophecy working all the time. It's always true. And his truth, even, it was, it is, and it is to come. Or you can say, without doing any evil or lying, always true, was, is to come. It's severe hypocrisy. But if this were to be brought up in any worldly church leader, minister, elder, priest, pope, these very things being brought up to them, they would rage and go away, and then that's it. Doesn't mean anything. They're out there doing the exact same thing, preaching and lying next week, next month, next year, next couple days. It just disappears from them. It's gone. You would think they would be a little worried about it, that they're teaching that the Creator's a hypocrite, and it's incredibly simple, even to confound a natural man. It's simple, and it can easily be shown, even to a natural man, simply, with simple words, scriptures, that they call the Creator a lying murderer and a thief and a robber and wicked, torturing people endlessly with no mercy. They call him all those things. They blaspheme. They say, what, he can die, that man is God, the greatest blasphemy, all these things. Patience, it's fruit of the Spirit. The Creator has none. Mercy, it's the fruit of the Spirit. Well, the Creator has none forever. They hear this, they'll get angry, they go crazy, devil activated, Satan's roaring inside. Because what else? Because it's a God, and it's pride. And a carnal man is never wrong about anything, and they'll just take it personal, because that's how they have to take it to attack you and throw down truth, is try to make it personal. That's the only thing they can do. They've been backed in with, and the only thing they can do is what we read, fall in their own ditch. Excuse me. Is fall in their own ditch and try to attack. That's all that's left. Where's the free will in that when everyone does that equally, constantly, with no exceptions, that don't not have the Father? They all do the same sin. Why is that? All of a sudden, it doesn't matter what cover someone's wearing. They do the same thing inside. The same wolf works, exactly identical. Same murderous hatred in the heart, identical. How are they okay with just walking away after being shown truth and confounded, saying, what's going on here? They don't sit there and meditate and ask the Creator why they teach he's a why they blaspheme his name, why they say and teach how evil he is without any mercy, and calling good evil and evil good. None of this bothers them. Too prideful. It just says I'm right, and because it says that, the Creator judges them. Okay, you're right. And so then they believe a lie that they're right, because that's the Creator's judgment. All right, I got to get some sleep. Peace takers seek truth from the Father and through Messiah above.